XP Pen sent me their latest giant 24-inch Gen 2 drawing tablet. Actually, that's a lie. They sent me two. These are almost identical except for one key difference. One is a 4K display and the other is a 2.5K display, but it goes up to 165 Hz. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and these are XP Pen's flagship pen displays in terms of size, resolution, refresh rate, and they come in at flagship prices, with the 4K coming in at $1,299 and the 165 Hz version coming in at $900. Now, if you're curious how this device stacks up against other tablets that I've reviewed, whether they're Android or Wacom tablets or things like that, I rank all the tech that I review over on my website. There's also links out to the product and those reviews, so you can watch them there if you want to. It's basically everything in one easy to find place. That's a lot of money, but you're getting a lot of tablets. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. It's the same from box to box. First of all, you have the big old tablets. You also have pens for these tablets. They come with these really nice cases that hold a lot of good stuff. There is a wide pen. There's also a narrow pen if you like that feel a little better. The narrow pen has this removable button thing going on, so if you find yourself accidentally tapping buttons whenever you use a pen like this, you can just swap that out. I ended up using the larger pen, even though it doesn't have a feature like that. I never really had any problems accidentally pressing the buttons ever. There are also replacement nibs, including these nice little light gray felt tip nibs that I really like, and this little dongle here. That's for a shortcut remote. Let's look at that next. And again, all of these buttons are totally customizable. So I set some for undo, some for the spacebar, some for control. It has these little rubbery, grippy feet on it. It doesn't hold super well to the tablet. What I was hoping would happen is that I could just set it on here when the tablet's sitting at its lowest point and just not have it slide off, but occasionally it will slide around. There's also a power adapter here and the cord for it. They're changing up their cables this time around. You can connect this using USB Type-C. If you have a DisplayPort out on your computer that can handle just a USB Type-C cable, that's all you need. You're good to go. There's also an HDMI cable and a DisplayPort cable too. That's cool. I have DisplayPorts on the back of my PC's graphics card, but I've never used them before today. If you use either one of those cables, you're still going to have to use the USB Type-C to send data, because an HDMI cable and that DisplayPort cable are just sending the digital signal to the screen, not the data from the pen back to the computer. Then there's also a setup guide, a warranty with some info in there, and a cleaning cloth with a drawing glove. Now these screens are a little bit under 24 inches, 23.8 to be exact, corner to corner. There's also a good amount of bezel here, which makes this device appear, and actually is, much wider than some other 24-inch tablets on the market, including some of XP Pen's most recent devices. Now, this is something I often see raised as a negative in the comment section with drawing tablets that have edges with this wide, but it is really on purpose. If you are drawing and you're sliding your hand across the screen or going over here to like tap some stuff, you don't want your hand to fall off the edge of the screen. That's why they include these. Turns out it's a really useful feature, and a lot of people who use these all day, every day, really like that. These are also, as expected, super heavy. We're talking about a lot of glass, a lot of plastic, super sturdy metal stand along the back. All of that adds up and adds weight. This thing is going to be anchored on your desk. There's big rubber feet along the bottom, so the stand, as you adjust the tilt to it, is gonna stay in place, not slide around, really stable. And the stand can be detached if you want, and then there's a standard vest mount along the bottom, so if you have an ergo arm or want to pick one up so you can kind of move this around freely, you can do that too. Now the stand itself stands up at almost a 90-degree angle, and then you can tilt it down to about 20-ish degrees. It's a really comfortable drawing position when it's all the way down. I enjoyed using it. Now Wacom has been making some crazy ergo stands, and this is not that, but you can set it at any angle and it's not going to go anywhere, and it gets the job done. Now along the back where your ports are, there's also some additional cable management here. Those little plastic stick-outy things. This also comes with a cover, so if you don't like the look of that, you could just snap that along the back for a really clean look. So let's talk about the differences between these two different devices. There's really not much. I expected to see a much bigger difference when I had them side by side on my desk. In fact, I had to put on my reading glasses to actually see that the 2.5K display wasn't quite as crisp as the 4K display. So yeah, it's easier to see pixels there, but I find even at this size, 2.5K looks pretty good even at 24 inches. Same thing with that enhanced refresh rate. This is something I thought might factor in more with drawing. The higher refresh rate, meaning less lag on the pens, right? Well, not really. It may help somewhat, but Windows, Mac OS just aren't as streamlined as something like iPad OS or Android. So it may help, but you're going to have a hard time perceiving any benefit. Now, where you can see it is in games. And usually I would not recommend a drawing tablet for gaming. In fact, I tell people all the time, do not get a drawing tablet if you intend on gaming, because they're almost always locked at like 60 hertz. So you're only going to be able to see 60 frames per second. This is just not what drawing tablets are designed for. But now, if you want to draw and game and use this as your everything monitor that does all of the things, you can do that. It works really well. And it makes sense because a lot of smaller tablets, like we're talking 13 inches, 16 inches, those are often a second monitor that artists will use. Whereas something like this is big enough where you want it to be your main monitor, and you're spending enough money where you want to use it for more than just drawing. Now, from a color and brightness standpoint, they also look very, very similar next to each other. One of the big differences that I've noticed with the higher refresh rate monitor is that it does get warmer. The actual screen, when your hand is on it and you're drawing it, you can feel the temperature difference. In fact, at one point in this video in the background when I'm drawing on it, you can see me reach for a drawing glove, because my hand was starting to stick to the screen because it did get warmer. It's just refreshing more often. That produces more heat. They both seem warmer on the right side of the screen than they do on the left side of the screen. There aren't really any hot spots. There's no place where things get really, really hot. But generally, they are warmer screens, and you might need to bust out that drawing glove that comes packed in here. Okay, stop. You know, I've never included a glove dance in any of my courses. Not a single course, not even the ones I currently have on sale over at bradsartschool.com, like Learn to Draw in 60 days. Every day, a new lesson, there's homework for it. There's also Intro to Digital Art, which I talk about some of my techniques and things like that I use. Like, I take 4 core brushes that I think we could use for everything, and I talk about how I use them, and every other brush is just a variation on that. Anyway, bradsartschool.com if you'd like to learn more about those. So let's check out this pen and see what it can do. I'm gonna just start pressing as lightly as I can, and the initial activation rate on these XP Pen tablets is really good. That's something that I think they do better maybe than anybody else out there. No matter how lightly I'm pressing, I am going to get a line. And when you're able to do that, you could just see a larger range in terms of how much pressure and how you could take advantage of the pressure that's there. The other thing I like to take a look at on these are just my slow angled lines. And what I'm looking for here is any kind of wave or wobble. And honestly, these look really good. My smoothing is set to 0%, so I don't have any smoothing on here. And this looks pretty good. This looks really, really good. I can tell on some of these that there's just a tiny bit of wave. You know, when I'm looking at this line, I don't know if you can see it on camera, I can definitely tell that it's there, that it's mechanical, it's not just my hand, but it's very subtle. And after drawing with this for a few hours, I haven't really been able to tell while drawing often what happens with these, especially when you start to do curved lines, and I'll just add some in here really quick. What you'll see around the edges, like as we hit these curves, is some of that wave and wobble will start to appear if you slow down a little bit. And honestly, even when I'm doing this, this looks really smooth. This looks really good. That's what I'm looking for in a nice pen. The only quirk, the only thing about this pen that I'm probably not like a huge fan of is the taper. Now, if I am moving at a normal rate and I'm just drawing, you know, my lines, my taper actually looks pretty good. These look like good lines. However, if I want to move really fast and get my tapered lines, what I start to see is a little bit of shoestringing start to happen, but you really have to like move it fast, and that's where you kind of see that shoestring happen. So it's one of those things where if you just slow down a little bit, you're fine. But if you like to just kind of blast in here with like hatch lines, you're going to see some shoestringing. You're probably going to see a little bit of check marking and that sort of thing, but only if you're moving really, really fast. I've tested a lot of these. I think this is their X3 technology that they use in these pens, and it's been pretty consistent across the board for XP Pen. So over the last year or so, these pens have performed really well. I think another thing that they've been doing with their displays is they used to have a harsher texture on them, or just maybe a little bit more space between the glass and the screen below it. Not too much, but just a tiny bit. And that was adding to the wave. That's something they've really knocked down on in the last few iterations of this tablet. Those continue with these large 24 displays as well. So overall, very, very happy with this pen. Now, one of the big things that XP Pen is pushing with these monitors is color calibration. And I don't have a color calibrator that works with their software. In fact, as of the time of me recording this review, they don't have that software ready yet. It will be ready hopefully sometime in the next few weeks or so. They are going to send me a color calibrator so I can test these. I may end up making like a little YouTube short or something like that so I can talk about that process, or maybe a long, and I'll talk about color calibration in general and that sort of thing. But for now, that is a big selling point of these devices, is how color accurate they are and can get. So in general, what do I think? Both of these are really good monitors. At this point, I think I do prefer like what Huion is doing with their 4th generation pens, but what XP Pen has here is still really good. They've managed to really knock out a lot of that pen wave, but in real world drawing outside of my test, I don't really notice the wave all that much when I'm drawing on these anymore. If I was going to choose for personal use which one I would get, I would go with the higher refresh rate monitor. That's mostly because I don't personally notice a huge difference in the resolution. But if I'm using this for playing a game or something where I want that higher refresh rate, it does come in really handy. And that is the difference maker for me. It also matters that that one happens to be $400 less. For you, getting those extra pixels might totally be worth it. Totally makes sense. What would be really cool is if the next iteration, maybe the Gen 4, Gen 3, we could see something where it combines the two, where you can get 4K and that higher refresh rate. That would be pretty neat. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.